In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with David Horesh, who is hailing over as the Director of Marketing at 4M Analytics. And today we want to really deep dive into the world of 4M Analytics, and it's basically deep diving into the area of subsurface utilities, like creating a global map for this type of information. And if you really want to figure out what that really means, who's using it, and how David is thinking about growth for the company. So David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Yeah. So maybe first give us, a 360 overview. What is 4M Analytics all about?
Okay. So in a nutshell, what we're doing is we're developing the first global map of the subsurface infrastructure. Today, when you want to pave a road or put a pipeline into the ground, you need to dig. And when you dig, then you damage or hit already existing infrastructure because you have no idea what's below. So we've developed a technology which is a combination of satellite imagery and artificial intelligence, computer vision, that's basically able to detect all sorts of visual evidence that tell us what's buried, what infrastructure is buried where. I know it sounds kind of very techy and very kind of high level, but it's actually quite simple. We have access to satellite imagery databases that go back 70 years, aerial imagery databases that go back even further than that. And we've developed algorithms that are able to detect the burial, or basically the construction of all sorts of utilities like oil and gas pipelines, water pipelines, sewage, telecom, electricity, and so on. And we're able basically to see the construction work of putting these utilities into the ground. And the algorithms that we've developed are able to detect them and basically put a line on a map of saying where the infrastructure is buried. And that way we're able to give our the construction or infrastructure stakeholders a map showing them where the utilities in their project are buried. I hope that makes sense.
Yep, I mean, so that is for projects that kind of were built into the ground, or is there, that's kind of what it is, no? That you guys build, they built infrastructure into the ground, then maybe there's a pavement on top, but you guys have the old data that was initially built, correct?
Exactly. So we can kind of take a look and see kind of what's buried and where without actually having any boots on the ground. Exactly.
Okay, cool. What type of companies use that technology? Like who is raising the hand and needs this type of data?
Wow. So there are just so many, because today there's basically any stakeholder that's involved in an infrastructure construction project. So you've got the general contractors, you've got the engineers, you've got the consultants, you've got the project owners, which could be kind of the departments of transportation, or they can be like basically the owner of the utility. It can be a water pipeline or whatever it is. And they kind of say, look, we have point A, we have point B. We assume where we want the line to go in between, but we're not quite sure yet because we don't know what utilities are buried where. So, and if we have a map to show them what's buried and where, we can help them kind of create a route and determine where that route is going to go.
That makes complete sense. What would you say is sort of the typical role that somebody holds that is, actually, picking up for analytics? Is that like, a project planner, or is that like from the engineering side, like who's picking up?
That's a great question. I think the answer, like, I want to say everyone, but obviously there are some people that need it more than others. But it's basically anyone that needs access to what we call utility data. So basically the information and the maps that tell us where the utilities are, and they kind of need to plan around that.
Very good. So how do these folks learn about 4M Analytics? Like, what's the typical journey somebody goes through? In other words, what are the typical client acquisition channels you guys leverage?
How does someone learn about 4M? So today, main channels are LinkedIn, I'd say. So we do mainly LinkedIn, a lot of organic, a bit of paid. a bit of SEO. We have a pretty progressive content engine. So we do two things. First of all, we create extremely funny content for an industries that is on one hand on LinkedIn. I think construction and infrastructure is kind of the third largest industry on LinkedIn. But on the other hand, there's no content out there. So there's a blue ocean to kind of take over the marketing sphere of construction, kind of having too much competition. And the content that we're creating is kind of, it's funny, it's engaging, it's very not really aligned with kind of the classic old industry that the construction naturally is. So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that we do is that we've set up a podcast for our industry, talking about our industry's problems. And basically we use Gary V strategy of long form content. We do 1 hour recordings. We cut them up into little bits of 60 seconds. We tag our guests, we tag their companies, and basically that kind of creates like an engine that kind of distributes itself, and it helps people want to share what their friends are doing, that their friends want on our podcast. It helps position us as some sort of thought leader of the industry. And I gotta say, in neither of these kind of content strategies, we're not talking about what we do as a company. Like you won't see any content like 4M is awesome, 4M is great, like our maps are awesome. We just talk about the industry, and we talk about the problems in the industry. That's all we do. All our content is about what needs to change in the industry. Now, what naturally happens is people see our content, and they kind of, it resonates with them because they feel the pains that we're talking about, and they see the title 4M Analytics, which at the beginning means nothing to them, but then they click the company page on LinkedIn, and that's where they see our pitch. And then like they can decide like if it's relevant for them or not, but and then kind of go to our website and fill out a form, and then goes to the sales team, and you know the rest of that story. So yeah, like I gave a long answer to how do people hear about 4M, but that's more or less how they hear about it.
So, I mean, I think your LinkedIn company LinkedIn profile is actually a testament to what you were just saying. So it's like memes and then interesting interviews, kind of like giving, you know, an interception. It's very cool. Now, what role do you think the website plays? You know, because we have marketers on the show that are always very critical about sort of, you know, the actual role in the end of the website. How do you think about the website? What does the website?
So I'm guilty of having a terrible website. Our website needs to be much better. We're not doing a good job with our website at the moment. Like we're in the process of redoing it. So hopefully we'll have a new website up in the next months or two. But I think the website today, like I think the website used to be some sort of business card. I think that today it's part of the funnel. It's part of the pipeline. Like if your website isn't converting, you have a problem. And at the moment, I gotta say that we're kind of making it through. Like but we're not doing good enough. And I'd say that ideally the website needs to serve as a bridge between someone who's interested in what you're doing and the sales team.
Very cool. No, very looking forward to the updates of the page. Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit, because we talked about the company, we talked about what you guys are doing, we talked about how you're thinking about growth. I would like to learn about you as a marketer a little bit more. First thing is, there's so much content on marketing out there, right? I mean, you guys creating tons of content, Pathmark does, and so there's many other companies. Like, where do you like to read as a marketer? Where do you educate yourself? Like, what's your go-to places?
So I'm gonna say something obvious. I think that I've never seen anything like it, like in my experience in my career. What Chris Walker is doing with Gen Live podcast, I think there's no other marketing content like that at the moment, because it's just, I think his timing was just perfect, because once COVID started, there was a gap in the market. Like suddenly a lot of industries that their marketing was mainly physical and mainly kind of based on events, that shut down. And then kind of lots of like lots of marketers that were kind of, let's call it old industry marketers, were kind of left hanging because they had nothing to do. And then they needed to sort of reinvent themselves. And I think that what Chris talks about, which is very obvious to many of us, but wasn't so obvious to a lot of people, and it kind of created some sort of explosion, for lack of a better term, around. And I think that what he's doing and the way he's doing it, and also the content that he's sharing, is just so on point, so accurate, so relevant to where we are in 2022. That the systems that were, I'd even say up to 2020, are just not relevant anymore. And I also think that there's like the way marketing is done now is very different than how it was done 2 years ago. And if you're able to do marketing now and you're able to do it well, wow, that's just an amazing asset.
Cool. I got some rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for those?
Let's do it.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called, it's by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. I think it's called something.
Shoe Dog, probably.
What did you say?
The Shoe Dog, no?
Shoe Dog, yeah, exactly. An amazing book. Talks about how to build a company from scratch without any venture capital. So I love that.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
PLG, product. Yeah.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, right? So everything is possible. What's the one thing you would fix for your role today?
For the company or for myself?
For yourself, for your role.
For my role. If there were no boundaries, attribution. Like if I could know what my users, what my customers, what my ICPs are doing, and when they're interested, and what they're interested in, wow, that's a game changer. So,
what's the last thing that kept you awake at night for the company?
My kid, 1-year-old daughter, she keeps me up at night. So.
And the very last question would be: so if we do a little bit of time travel, right? We go back, maybe let's say to the days when you joined the company, right? So we go, what a year is it? A year and but nearly 2 years, right? 1.5 years. Yeah. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey with 4M Analytics?
Research. Know the industry, know your customer, be very bullish about putting an ICP profile in place, like knowing who we're going to sell to. I think that's the key to good marketing. Knowing who your customer is, that's the key to everything, and knowing what their problems are.
David, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be guest on Platform Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about 4M, what's the one thing they should remember?
About 4M? Mm-hmm. They were mapping the subsurface.
Very good. I appreciate you took the time with us today, and thanks for being part of Platform Presents.
Thank you, Lucas.